Tommy Martinez had always been the kid who brought home stray cats, injured birds, and once even a three-legged raccoon that his mom still talked about 5 years later. So when he heard the soft whimpering coming from the storm drain behind his house on Maple Street, his 12-year-old heart couldn't ignore it. The October rain had been brutal that week, turning the usually dry creek bed into a rushing torrent. Now, 2 days after the storm passed, the water had receded, leaving behind debris, mud, and apparently something alive and in pain. Tommy grabbed his dad's old camping flashlight from the garage and army-crawled into the concrete tunnel. The smell hit him first, not the usual musty odor of standing water, but something sharp and metallic like pennies mixed with ozone. The whimpering grew louder as he moved deeper into the darkness. "Hello?" he called softly. "Are you okay in there?" The sound stopped immediately, replaced by what Tommy could only describe as the world's tiniest growl. He clicked on the flashlight and his jaw dropped. Huddled against the far wall of the storm drain was a creature no bigger than his mom's cat. But it definitely wasn't any animal he'd seen in his 7th grade biology textbook. Its body was sleek and reptilian, covered in scales that shifted from deep purple to midnight blue depending on how the light hit them. 4 delicate wings, translucent like a dragonfly's but with veins that pulsed with a soft golden light, were folded against its sides. One wing hung at an odd angle, clearly damaged, but it was the eyes that made Tommy's breath catch. They were large and intelligent, a swirling mix of silver and violet that seemed to hold more awareness than any animal should possess. Those eyes stared at him with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. "Oh, wow," Tommy whispered. "What are you?" The creature, because calling it a dragon seemed crazy even though that's exactly what it looked like, let out another small whimper. It tried to stand but immediately collapsed, favoring its left front leg. Tommy had volunteered at the local animal shelter, enough to recognize the signs of serious injury. This little guy needed help and fast. Without thinking twice, he shrugged off his hoodie and gently scooped the creature up, wrapping it carefully in the soft fabric. "It's okay," he murmured, the same tone he used with scared puppies at the shelter. "I'm going to help you." The creature's body was warm against his chest and he could feel its rapid heartbeat. As they emerged from the storm drain, the afternoon sunlight caught its scales, making them shimmer like liquid starlight. Tommy had to blink hard to make sure he wasn't dreaming. Getting past his parents proved easier than expected. His mom was on a conference call for work, and his dad was in the basement workshop, probably building another one of his model airplanes. Tommy slipped upstairs to his room unnoticed. He set up a makeshift nest in an old shoebox, lining it with his softest t-shirts. The creature watched his every movement with those impossibly intelligent eyes. When Tommy gently examined the injured wing, it didn't snap or try to bite. Instead, it seemed to understand he was trying to help. "Your wing's definitely broken," Tommy said, surprised by how naturally he was talking to the creature, "and I think your leg might be sprained. Don't worry, though. I've helped lots of hurt animals before." The creature made a sound that was almost like a purr. Tommy spent the next 2 hours carefully cleaning the creature's wounds with warm water and cotton swabs. He fashioned a tiny splint for the wing using popsicle sticks and medical tape from his mom's first aid kit. The creature remained perfectly still throughout the process, as if it understood that Tommy was helping. As the sun began to set, painting his room in shades of orange and gold, Tommy sat on his bed watching his unusual patient. The creature had eaten small pieces of leftover chicken from dinner and seemed to be feeling better. Its scales had brightened considerably and those golden veins in its wings pulsed with a steady, healthy rhythm. "I should probably call someone," Tommy said, though he had no idea who, like scientists or something. "You're definitely not from around here, are you?" The creature tilted its head and for a moment, Tommy could have sworn it understood every word. Then it did something that made his heart skip a beat. It looked directly into his eyes and spoke. Not with words, exactly. The voice appeared in Tommy's mind, clear as day, but somehow not quite human in its cadence. "Thank you, young guardian. Your kindness has been noted." Tommy's mouth fell open. "Did you just—" "I am Zara of the Celestial Winds, youngest daughter of the Dragon Lords of Altair Prime. I became separated from my flight during the great storm that crossed between our worlds." "You're an alien," Tommy breathed. "An actual alien dragon. And you are human," Zara replied, her mental voice tinged with what sounded like wonder. "The first of your species I have encountered. Your legends speak truly of human compassion. Our legends? The stories of your people have traveled far among the civilized worlds. How humans will risk everything to help those in need, even strangers, even enemies. We thought they were myths. Tommy felt a warmth spread through his chest that had nothing to do with the creature's body heat. So what happens now? Do you need to get back to your family? Zara's scales dimmed slightly. My people search for me, but the dimensional barriers are strong after a storm. They may not find me for many days. And I am... She paused. Not yet old enough to navigate the void between worlds alone. Then you'll stay here, Tommy said without hesitation, until they find you. I'll take care of you. You would do this, even knowing what I am? You're hurt and scared and far from home, Tommy said simply. Of course I'll help. As if in response to his words, the golden veins in Zara's wings pulsed brighter, and Tommy felt something shift in the air around them. A sense of rightness, like puzzle pieces clicking into place. Outside his window, the first stars were beginning to appear in the darkening sky. Tommy didn't know it yet, but high above Earth's atmosphere, ships were beginning to converge. The rescue was already in motion, and on worlds dozens of light years away, the story of a human boy who saved a dragon princess was about to become legend. Tommy woke up to the sound of his alarm clock screaming at 6 a.m, but for once he didn't groan and bury his face in his pillow. Instead, he bolted upright, immediately looking toward the shoebox on his desk where Zara had spent the night. The tiny dragon was awake, perched on the edge of the box with her wings spread wide. The injured wing was still splinted, but she was testing its range of motion carefully. Her scales caught the early morning light streaming through his window, creating patterns of purple and blue that seemed to dance across the walls. Good morning, came her voice in his mind, warm with what Tommy was learning to recognize as dragon amusement. Your sleep sounds are quite entertaining. I don't snore, Tommy protested, then stopped. Wait, can you understand my dreams too? Only surface thoughts when you broadcast them strongly. Your dreams of flying were vivid. Tommy felt his cheeks burn. He dreamed about soaring through clouds on dragonback, which seemed embarrassing now that he was actually talking to a dragon. How's your wing feeling? Zara flexed it experimentally. Much improved thanks to your careful tending. You have the hands of a healer, Tommy Martinez. It still gave him chills when she used his full name. He'd told her the night before, along with everything he could think of about Earth humans and his small town of Millbrook. In return, she'd shared stories of Altair Prime, a world of floating crystal cities and dragons who could slip between dimensions like swimmers moving through water. I should check your splint before school, Tommy said, climbing out of bed. But as he approached, Zara made a sound that was definitely alarm. School? You're leaving? Just for the day. I have to, or my parents will get suspicious. But I'll be back this afternoon, and I'll leave you plenty of food and water. Zara's scales shifted to a darker shade of blue. Tommy, I must tell you something. My people, they are coming. That's good, right? You want to go home? Yes, but... Zara paused, and Tommy felt a complex mix of emotions through their strange connection. Gratitude, worry, and something that felt almost like guilt. Dragon rescue missions are significant events. When a member of the royal family goes missing, especially one as young as I am, the response is considerable. What do you mean, considerable? Before Zara could answer, Tommy's mom called from downstairs. Tommy, breakfast! We'll talk about this later, he whispered, gently checking her splint. The wing seemed to be healing remarkably fast. Dragon physiology was apparently much more resilient than Earth animals. School passed in a blur of distracted thoughts. Tommy found himself staring out windows, scanning the sky for any unusual shapes. During lunch, his best friend Marcus noticed his weird behavior. Dude, you've been acting strange all day. Did you finally work up the courage to talk to Sarah Peterson? What? No. Tommy's voice cracked. I just didn't sleep well. You look like you've seen a ghost, or an alien or something. Tommy nearly choked on his sandwich. That's ridiculous. But as the afternoon wore on, he started noticing things. The birds seemed agitated, constantly taking flight and wheeling in confused circles. Dogs in the neighborhood were barking more than usual. And there was something in the air, a pressure, like the feeling before a thunderstorm, but different. During his last class, Mrs. Henderson's lesson on the Revolutionary War was interrupted by a commotion outside. Students pressed against the windows, pointing and exclaiming. In the distance, What looked like a meteor shower was happening in broad daylight. Dozens of streaks of light crossing the sky in formation. Too organized to be natural. Probably just military aircraft, Mrs. Henderson said, but her voice carried uncertainty. Tommy's blood ran cold. He had a terrible feeling he knew exactly what those lights were. The moment the final bell rang, he sprinted home faster than he'd ever run in his life. He burst through his front door, ignoring his mom's startled greeting, and raced upstairs to his room. Zara was no longer in the shoebox. Instead, she was perched on his windowsill, staring out at the sky with an expression that somehow managed to look guilty and excited at the same time. "They're here, aren't they?" Tommy panted. "The advanced scouts arrived an hour ago. The main fleet will reach Earth's atmosphere within the next few hours." "Fleet?" Tommy's voice went up an octave. "How big of a fleet are we talking about?" "Well," Zara's mental voice was carefully neutral, "I am the youngest daughter of the High Regent of Altair Prime, and the first dragon to ever be lost on an uncontacted world, so, Zara, the entire Third Celestial Navy is currently en route to Earth." Tommy sat down hard on his bed. "How many ships is that?" "Approximately 12,000 combat vessels plus support ships, diplomatic cruisers, and..." She paused. "My father's personal dreadnought." 12,000? Tommy's voice was barely a whisper. "Zara, they're going to think we're under attack. The military, the government, they'll panic. Which is why I need to contact them immediately and explain the situation." "But Tommy..." Her scales flickered through a rapid sequence of colors. "There's something else you need to understand." "What now?" "According to dragon law, you are my rescuer. That makes you..." "Well, it's complicated in your language, but the closest translation would be honored guardian. It comes with certain obligations." "What kind of obligations?" Before Zara could answer, Tommy heard his father's voice from downstairs, unusually sharp with concern. "Nancy, come look at this. Something's happening." Tommy and Zara exchanged glances, or what passed for a glance between a human and a telepathic dragon. "They're watching the news," Tommy realized. "We should probably go downstairs," Zara said. "It's time your family learned the truth. Are you crazy? I can't just walk down there with an alien dragon." "Tommy," Zara's voice was gentle but firm, "in approximately 2 hours, the first dragon ships will enter your planet's airspace. When they do, every human government on Earth will know that your species is no longer alone in the universe. Don't you think your parents deserve to hear it from you first?" Tommy's hands were shaking. Everything was happening so fast. Yesterday, his biggest worry was a math test, and now he was apparently Earth's first contact with an alien civilization. What if they don't believe me? Then I'll show them. From downstairs, Tommy could hear the urgent tones of a news broadcast and his parents' increasingly worried voices. The words "unidentified objects" and "approaching Earth" drifted up the stairs. "Okay," Tommy said, taking a deep breath, "but you stay on my shoulder and try to look, I don't know, less mystical and more like a really weird pet." Zara's amused purr filled his mind. "I am a princess of the Dragon Lords, Tommy Martinez. I do not look like a pet. Just try." As they headed downstairs together, Tommy couldn't shake the feeling that his life, and possibly the entire world, was about to change forever. Through the window, he could see more lights beginning to appear in the darkening sky. The fleet was coming. Tommy's parents were glued to the television when he entered the living room. Zara perched carefully on his shoulder. The news anchor's usually composed face showed barely. Controlled panic as she reported on what the military was calling an unprecedented aerial phenomenon, confirmed sightings of unidentified craft over major population centers across 6 continents. Officials are urging calm while investigations continue. But sources within NORAD suggest these objects are unlike anything in our current aerospace capabilities. His mom, Nancy, turned as she heard his footsteps. "Tommy, thank goodness you're home. Something incredible is happening. They're saying there might be..." She stopped mid-sentence, her eyes focusing on Zara. "Mom, Dad," Tommy began, his voice steadier than he felt. "I need to tell you something really important." His father, Robert, was still staring at the screen where radar images showed hundreds of dots arranged in perfect geometric formations. "Not now, son. This is serious. The president might address the nation within the hour." "Dad, this is about that," Tommy said. "The ships in the sky, they're here because of me." Both parents turned to look at him now, and Nancy's eyes widened as she really saw Zara for the first time. The little dragon had folded her wings close to her body, but there was no mistaking what she was: the iridescent scales, the intelligent eyes, the definitely not terrestrial features. "Tommy," his mother's voice was very quiet. "What is that on your shoulder?" "Her name is Zara," Tommy said. "She's a dragon. From another planet. I found her hurt in the storm drain yesterday and fixed her wing." Robert laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "Okay, very funny. Where did you get that thing? It's some kind of sophisticated toy, right? Remote-controlled?" In response, Zara lifted her head and spoke directly into both adults' minds simultaneously. "Greetings, parents of Tommy Martinez. I am Zara, Princess of Altair Prime, and your son has saved my life." Nancy sat down heavily on the couch. Robert's face went completely white. "She's telepathic," Tommy explained unnecessarily. "And those ships on the news? They're here to rescue her." "This isn't possible," Robert muttered. We're having some kind of family hallucination. Dad, look outside." Through their front window, the evening sky was beginning to fill with lights. Not the chaotic streaks from earlier, but organized formations of craft that pulsed with the same golden energy as Zara's wing veins. They moved with impossible grace, defying every law of physics Tommy had learned in school. "I must contact my people immediately," Zara said, her mental voice reaching all three humans. "Each moment of delay increases the risk of misunderstandings." "What kind of misunderstandings?" Nancy asked, finding her voice. "Your military forces are currently mobilizing. Fighter jets are being scrambled. Your planet's defense networks are powering up weapons systems. My people, seeing this aggressive response, are moving into protective formations." As if summoned by her words, the sound of jet engines screamed overhead. Through the window, they could see military aircraft streaking toward the alien formations. "This is going to turn into a war," Tommy realized with growing horror. "And it's my fault." "No," Zara's voice was firm. "You saved me, Tommy. That act of kindness is going to save both our worlds. But first I need to prevent a battle that no one wants." She spread her wings and the golden veins began to pulse brighter. "I'm going to send a message to the fleet commander, my eldest brother, Prince Kalen. But the communication will be visible." "What do you mean, visible?" Robert asked. "Watch." Zara's entire body began to glow with soft golden light. The light grew brighter and brighter until she was almost too bright to look at directly. Then, with a sound like distant thunder, a beam of pure energy shot from her tiny form straight up into the sky. The beam was visible for miles, a pillar of golden light that connected Earth to the stars. On the news, which was still playing, the anchor was suddenly shouting excitedly about an energy discharge from suburban Millbrook that appears to be some kind of signal. "The entire world just saw that," Nancy whispered. "Good," Zara said, her glow fading back to normal. "Now my brother knows where I am, and more importantly, he knows I'm safe and protected by humans." Robert was staring at his son with a mixture of pride and terror. "Tommy, do you understand what you've done? You've just become the most important person on Earth." "I just helped someone who was hurt," Tommy protested. "That's what you and Mom taught me to do." Through their connection, Tommy felt Zara's emotions surge: gratitude, admiration, and something deeper. Respect that seemed far too mature for her apparent age. And that, Tommy Martinez, is why the stories of human compassion have spread across the galaxy. You don't help others because you expect reward. You help because it's right. The sound of vehicles approaching made them all turn toward the front window. Black SUVs were pulling up outside their house, followed by what looked like a mobile command center. "Government," Robert said grimly. "They traced the signal. Dad, what do we do?" Before anyone could answer, there was a sharp knock at the door. Tommy's family looked at each other in panic. "I'll handle this," Zara said. She launched herself from Tommy's shoulder and flew to the front window, hovering there in full view of whoever was outside. The knocking stopped. "They've seen me," Zara reported. "Agent Jennifer Collins, FBI First Contact Division." "Yes, Tommy. Your government has had a first contact protocol for decades. Is currently speaking very rapidly into her radio." "There's a first contact division?" Nancy asked weakly. "Apparently. She's requesting immediate backup from the linguistics team and something called the Xenobiology Task Force." The front door opened, and a woman in a black suit stepped inside without invitation. She was followed by 3 other agents and a man in a military uniform covered in stars that suggested he was extremely important. Mr. and Mrs. Martinez, Agent Collins said, her voice professionally calm despite the extraordinary circumstances. I'm Agent Collins, FBI. This is General Patterson. NORAD. We need to speak with your son immediately. Is Tommy in trouble? Nancy asked, moving protectively toward her son. On the contrary, General Patterson said, staring at Zara with undisguised amazement. Your son may have just prevented an interplanetary war. Through the window, the alien fleet had moved into a new formation. Less aggressive, more ceremonial. The military jets had pulled back to a respectful distance. Princess Zara, Agent Collins said formally, on behalf of the government of the United States and the people of Earth. Welcome to our world. Zara inclined her head regally. Every inch the royal princess despite being the size of a house cat. Agent Collins, General Patterson, I bring greetings from the Dragon Lords of Altair Prime. We come in peace. Drawn here by reports of an injured member of our royal family. And Tommy found you and helped you, the general said. More than helped, Zara corrected. He showed me the true meaning of human kindness. Because of his actions, first contact between our species will be remembered not as a military encounter, but as a rescue mission, a story of compassion that will be told among my people for generations. Agent Collins was taking notes rapidly. Princess, we need to establish formal communication with your fleet before the situation escalates further. Already arranged, Zara said. My brother will be landing in your backyard in approximately 10 minutes for formal first contact protocols. He's what? Tommy yelped. Landing. Here. Prince Kalen doesn't trust your government facilities yet, but he trusts you, Tommy. You saved his sister's life. In dragon culture, that makes you family. General Patterson looked like he was having trouble breathing. A member of alien royalty is about to land in suburban Millbrook for first contact with humanity. Technically, Zara said, with what Tommy was learning to recognize as dragon humor. First contact already happened yesterday when Tommy pulled me out of that storm drain. Everything from here on is just paperwork. Outside, the golden lights in the sky were moving again, and one was growing much brighter as it descended toward Earth. The Martinez family's backyard had never seen so much activity. Within minutes of Zara's announcement, what seemed like half the government had descended on their small suburban home. Military vehicles lined Maple Street, satellite dishes sprouted like metal flowers across their lawn, and men and women in suits spoke urgently into headsets while setting up equipment Tommy couldn't begin to identify. This is insane, he muttered, watching from his bedroom window as a team of technicians assembled what looked like a portable mission control center next to his mom's rose garden. It's historic, Zara corrected from her perch on his desk. Her scales were brighter now, shifting through shades of excited purple and gold. Tommy, do you understand? You're about to witness the first diplomatic meeting between humans and dragons. This moment will be studied and celebrated for thousands of years. I just wanted to help you get better. And because you did, everything changes. A soft chime filled the air. Not a sound exactly, but something Tommy felt in his bones. Zara's head snapped up, her attention focused on something beyond the window. He's here. The descent of Prince Kalen's ship was nothing like the movies had prepared Tommy for. There were no roaring engines or dramatic atmospheric entry burns. Instead, a shape simply materialized in the air above their backyard, first translucent, like heat shimmer, then solidifying into something that took Tommy's breath away. The craft was perhaps 50 feet long and shaped like a teardrop made of living crystal. Its surface rippled with the same golden energy patterns that decorated Zara's wings, but magnified 1,000-fold. It settled onto their lawn with the gentleness of a soap bubble, causing no more disturbance than a butterfly landing on a flower. Beautiful, Nancy whispered from behind them. Both parents had joined Tommy at the window, along with Agent Collins and General Patterson. Dragon ships are grown, not built, Zara explained. That vessel is part of my brother's bondmate. They've been together for over 3 centuries. Bondmate? Tommy asked. Dragons form lifelong partnerships with their ships. The vessels are sentient living beings. Kalen and Star Whisper have traveled together across dozens of galaxies. The ship's surface began to glow brighter, and a section simply dissolved away, revealing an opening that seemed too small for anything larger than Zara to pass through. But then a figure emerged that made Tommy understand why dragons were legends on worlds they'd never even visited. Prince Kalen was magnificent in a way that made Tommy's 12-year-old vocabulary feel completely inadequate. He stood nearly 8 feet tall, his humanoid form clothed in scales that shifted from deep sapphire to silver in the evening light. His wings, when he spread them, cast shadows that seemed to dance with their own life. Like Zara, golden veins pulsed through the wing membranes, but his were complex networks that looked like circuit boards made of starlight. But it was his presence that truly impressed. Even from the house, Tommy could feel the weight of ancient wisdom and barely contained power. This was a being who could level mountains or nurture newborn stars with equal ease. "My brother is showing off," Zara said with fond exasperation. "He's making himself larger than necessary for dramatic effect. That's not his real size. Dragons are shapeshifters to some degree. We adapt our forms to our surroundings and circumstances. Kalen could appear as small as I am, or..." She paused. "Considerably larger." Agent Collins was speaking rapidly into her headset. "Yes, Mr. President, I'm looking at him now. Approximately 8 feet tall, definitely non-human and radiating what I can only describe as concentrated authority. No, sir, he doesn't appear to be armed." "Dragons don't need weapons," General Patterson muttered. Prince Kalen moved with fluid grace across the lawn toward the house, seemingly unbothered by the dozens of military personnel who had their weapons trained on him. Not aggressively, but ready. Tommy noticed that the alien prince's attention was focused not on the government officials or the impressive array of technology, but on the house itself. "He's looking for me," Tommy realized. "And you need to go meet him," Zara said. "As my rescuer, you have the honor of formal introductions. I can't go out there. I'm just a kid." "You're the human who saved a dragon princess," Agent Collins said firmly. "Right now, that makes you the most qualified diplomat on Earth." Tommy's legs felt like jelly as they made their way downstairs and out the back door. The moment he stepped onto the lawn, Prince Kalen's attention fixed on him with laser intensity. Those ancient eyes, swirling galaxies of silver and blue, seemed to see straight through to his soul. The Dragon Prince approached and, to Tommy's amazement, bowed deeply. "Tommy Martinez of Earth." Kalen's mental voice was deeper than Zara's, resonating with harmonics that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "I am Kalen, First Prince of Altair Prime, Commander of the 3rd Celestial Navy, and Guardian of the Eastern Spiral Arm. You have my eternal gratitude for preserving the life of my youngest sister. Tommy's voice cracked. "You're welcome." Kalen's expression softened, and Tommy caught a glimpse of the family resemblance to Zara. There was warmth beneath all that cosmic majesty. "Sister," Kalen said, extending one clawed hand. Zara launched herself from Tommy's shoulder and landed gracefully on her brother's palm. "You appear well cared for." "Tommy is an excellent healer," Zara replied, "and his family has shown me great kindness. As have all humans I've observed since arriving in this system," Kalen said, his gaze sweeping across the assembled government officials. "Your species' response to our presence has been illuminating." General Patterson stepped forward. "Your Highness, I'm General Patterson representing Earth's military forces. We weren't sure of your intentions." "Understandable," Kalen nodded. "A fleet of 12,000 warships appearing without warning would alarm any prudent civilization. But observe, your military prepared for battle. Yet when they saw our defensive formations, they chose caution over aggression. When communication was established, you immediately sought dialogue rather than conflict. These are the actions of a wise species." Agent Collins had her tablet out, recording everything. "Your Highness, what are your people's intentions regarding Earth?" Kalen was quiet for a moment, exchanging rapid mental communication with Zara that was too quick and complex for Tommy to follow. Finally, the prince spoke. "Agent Collins, we came here for one reason, to recover my sister. However, what we have discovered changes everything. The stories we have heard of human compassion appear to be true. In Tommy's actions, we see the potential for humanity to become valuable partners in the greater galactic community." "Partners?" General Patterson's voice carried hope and wariness in equal measure. "The galaxy is vast and often dangerous," Kalen explained. "There are species that would see your world conquered or destroyed simply for the resources it contains. The Dragon Lords maintain peace in this sector of space, but we cannot be everywhere at once." Tommy felt a chill that had nothing to do with the evening air. "Are we in danger?" "Not anymore," Kalen said, and his mental voice carried absolute certainty. "By saving my sister, you have placed Earth under the protection of Altair Prime. Any species that wishes humanity harm will answer to the Dragon Lords. The implications of that statement seemed to hit everyone simultaneously. Tommy saw Agent Collins's hands trembling slightly as she typed notes, and General Patterson looked like someone had just told him his lottery ticket was a winner. However, Kalen continued, protection is only the beginning. We believe humanity has much to offer the galactic community. Your capacity for compassion, your innovative thinking, your ability to find hope in desperate circumstances, these are rare qualities. What exactly are you proposing? Agent Collins asked. Kalen smiled, an expression that was both alien and remarkably human. An exchange. We offer knowledge, technology, and protection. In return, we ask for teachers, to learn what makes humans who they are, to understand how a species can be simultaneously so fragile and so strong, and perhaps, he glanced at Tommy, to learn how a 12-year-old boy can make a decision that changes the fate of two civilizations. Tommy felt his face burning red. I just did what anyone would do. No, Tommy Martinez, Prince Kalen said gently. You did what a human would do, and that, young friend, makes all the difference. Above them, the Dragon fleet held its positions in the darkening sky, no longer an invasion force but an honor guard, waiting for humanity's answer to an invitation that would reshape their understanding of their place in the universe. The emergency session of the United Nations had been called for dawn, but Tommy Martinez was discovering that being the kid who saved an alien princess meant he didn't get much sleep. Instead, he found himself sitting in the most surreal breakfast of his life, sharing pancakes with his parents, a dragon princess, an FBI agent, and a general who kept staring at Prince Kalen like he couldn't quite believe his eyes. Kalen had adapted his size to fit more comfortably in their kitchen, now appearing roughly human-sized but still unmistakably otherworldly. He examined a piece of bacon with scientific curiosity before politely declining Nancy's offer of coffee. Dragons don't require the same nutrition as humans, Zara explained from her perch on Tommy's shoulder, where she was delicately picking at scrambled eggs. But we appreciate the gesture of hospitality. This is so weird, Tommy muttered. You'll adapt, Agent Collins said, scrolling through messages on her tablet. The president wants to speak with you before the UN session. Every major world leader is demanding to know what happened here. What do I tell them? The truth, Prince Kalen said simply. That when faced with suffering, you chose to help. It's a simple story, but one that will resonate across species and cultures. General Patterson leaned forward. Your Highness, I need to ask, the rest of your fleet, are they planning to land? Not unless invited. 12,000 ships descending on your world would cause complications. However, delegations from each of the major dragon houses will arrive throughout the day for the formal ceremonies. Formal ceremonies? Nancy asked. Zara's scales shifted to embarrassed purple. I may have forgotten to mention something. Rescuing a member of the royal family triggers certain traditions. Tommy had a sinking feeling. What kind of traditions? Well, Kalen said with what Tommy was learning was dragon diplomatic speak for, you're not going to like this. According to the ancient laws, anyone who saves the life of a dragon noble becomes an honored guardian. This status comes with certain privileges and responsibilities, such as a formal ceremony recognizing your new position, presentation to the High Council of Dragon Lords, and... Kalen paused. A bond gift. What's a bond gift? A dragon companion, Zara said quietly. Traditionally, the rescued noble's youngest sibling becomes the guardian's partner. Tommy nearly choked on his orange juice. Sibling. You have another brother or sister? 3 younger siblings, actually. Twins Lyra and Nova, who are 50 years old, and little Pip, who's only 25. 25 years old is little. Dragons mature differently than humans, Kalen explained. Pip is equivalent to a human child of perhaps 8 years. He's enthusiastic, Agent Collins was typing furiously. A dragon companion for a 12-year-old human. The psychological profiles alone will keep our teams busy for years. I don't know if I'm ready for that kind of responsibility, Tommy said honestly. Which is exactly why you're perfect for it, Kalen replied. Tommy, in the past 15 hours, you've shown more wisdom and compassion than many beings display in centuries of life. You understand that great power requires great care. The sound of helicopters approaching made everyone look toward the windows. The media had been kept at a distance, but Tommy could see news vans lining the streets beyond the military checkpoints. The world wants to see their first human ambassador to the dragons, General Patterson said. I'm not an ambassador. I'm just a kid who helped someone. That's what makes you the perfect ambassador, Agent Collins said. You don't want power or glory. You just want to do the right thing. Prince Kalen stood, his form shifting subtly as he prepared to return to full ceremonial size. Tommy Martinez, the delegations will arrive within the hour. Are you prepared to accept the honor your actions have earned? Tommy looked around the kitchen at the faces watching him, his parents proud and worried in equal measure. Agent Collins documenting everything for history. General Patterson, still overwhelmed by the magnitude of the situation. And Zara, whose grateful eyes held more trust than he felt he deserved. What exactly would I have to do? Represent humanity in our formal recognition ceremonies. Accept the bond gift if you choose. And most importantly, Kalen's expression grew serious. Help bridge the gap between our species as we learn to work together. And if I say no, then you say no, Zara said immediately. Dragon law requires your consent, Tommy. You've already done more than enough by saving my life. But Tommy could tell there was more. Kalen sighed, a sound like wind through crystal caves. But your refusal would be disappointing to many of my people. They've watched the recordings of your rescue, seen your kindness toward my sister. Many already consider you a hero. No pressure, Tommy said sarcastically. Actually, Agent Collins interrupted, there is pressure, not from the dragons but from Earth. Every government wants to establish relations with the Dragon Lords. Your connection to Princess Zara makes you invaluable for diplomatic relations. I'm 12, which is why you'll have advisors, General Patterson said. The best minds in diplomacy, xenobiology, and interspecies relations. Tommy felt the weight of the world settling on his shoulders. Literally. Outside, he could see the first of the dragon delegation ships beginning their descent, smaller vessels that moved like liquid starlight through the morning sky. Tommy, his mother said quietly, this is your choice. Whatever you decide, your father and I will support you. But I think you already know what you want to do. Tommy looked at Zara, who was watching him with those impossibly deep eyes. He thought about finding her broken and terrified in the storm drain, and how helping her had felt like the most natural thing in the world. If I do this, he said finally, what happens to my normal life? School, friends, just being a regular kid? Your education will be enhanced, Kalen said diplomatically. You'll learn alongside the finest tutors from multiple worlds. As for friends, you'll have opportunities to meet young beings from across the galaxy. And you'll still live here, Agent Collins added. This house will become the unofficial embassy between Earth and Altair Prime, but it's still your home. Tommy took a deep breath. Through the window, he could see the dragon ships arranging themselves in ceremonial formation above their backyard. Each one was unique, reflecting the personality and culture of its house. Some crystalline, like Kalen's, others that seemed to be made of condensed starlight, and a few that looked like they had been grown from living coral. Okay, he said quietly. I'll do it. Zara's joy blazed through their mental connection so brightly that Tommy had to blink. Tommy, you won't regret this. I promise. I hope not, Tommy said, watching as the largest of the delegation ships began to descend. It was massive, dwarfing even Kalen's vessel, and as it settled into the field behind their house, Tommy realized that his quiet life in suburban Millbrook was officially over. By the way, Zara said innocently, I should probably mention that the ship landing now belongs to my father. He wanted to meet you personally. Your father? The High Regent? The one who commands fleets that patrol half the galaxy, yes. Tommy put his head in his hands. You could have mentioned that earlier. I didn't want you to be nervous. Too late for that. Through the kitchen window, they watched as the massive ship's surface began to glow, preparing to disgorge what Tommy suspected would be the most important dragon in the known universe. His life as Earth's first dragon ambassador was about to begin. High Regent Thalarin of Altair Prime was not what Tommy had expected. Instead of the massive, intimidating figure he'd braced himself for, Zara's father appeared in a form almost identical to his daughter, small, elegant, and designed to put humans at ease. The only hints of his true nature were the complexity of the golden patterns in his wings and eyes that held the weight of millennia. So, the ruler of one of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations said as he perched on the Martinez family's kitchen table, "You are the young human who saved my daughter, Tommy swallowed hard. Yes, sir. Your Highness, your Regency? Thalarin's laugh was like silver bells in a gentle breeze. Sir will do fine, Tommy Martinez. May I call you Tommy? Yes, sir. Good. I understand you've been having quite an adventure. Agent Collins, who had been frantically consulting her protocols handbook, stepped forward. Your Highness, on behalf of the government of the United States and the people of Earth. Agent Collins, Thaloran interrupted gently. I appreciate the formal welcome, but I'm here as a father, not a head of state. Zara, come here. The little dragon princess flew to her father, who examined her carefully, his ancient eyes taking in every detail of her condition. The healing work is excellent. Professional quality. Tommy, where did you learn medical techniques? I volunteer at the animal shelter, Tommy said, then immediately worried that comparing dragon royalty to stray cats might be offensive. Compassion paired with practical knowledge, Thaloran mused. Interesting. Tell me, what was your first thought when you found Zara? Tommy considered lying, making himself sound more heroic, but something about the dragon regent's eyes made deception impossible. I thought she was beautiful and hurt, and that I had to help her. Not what is this creature or is this dangerous? No, sir. She was whimpering. She needed help. Thalarin exchanged a meaningful look with Prince Kalen. Son, your assessment? The human capacity for instinctive compassion appears to be genuine, Kalen replied formally. No calculation, no hesitation. Tommy acted purely from empathy. Which brings us to the matter at hand, Thalarin said, turning back to Tommy. Young Guardian, are you prepared to accept the bond gift your actions have earned? Before Tommy could answer, a new sound filled the air, high-pitched squeaking that was unmistakably excited babbling. Through the window they could see a ship much smaller than the others approaching. It moved erratically, weaving between the larger vessels like an eager puppy running through a crowd. Oh no, Zara muttered. What's wrong? Tommy asked. That's Pip, Kalen said with the tone of an older brother who had dealt with this situation many times before. He's enthusiastic about meeting you. The small ship landed with considerably less grace than its predecessors, bouncing twice before settling. Almost immediately, a tiny dragon burst from the opening and streaked toward the house like a purple and gold missile. Tommy barely had time to brace himself before 25 pounds of overexcited baby dragon slammed into his chest, wrapping him in a hug that knocked him backward off his chair. Tommy! 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 The mental voice was high-pitched and rapid-fire, like a child who'd had too much sugar. You saved Zara. You're the human hero. Can we be best friends? Do you want to see me breathe fire? I can breathe fire. Watch, Pip, no! 3 adult dragons shouted simultaneously, but it was too late. A stream of rainbow-colored flame shot from the little dragon's mouth, fortunately aimed at the ceiling. The flames were beautiful but mercifully cool, leaving behind only the faint scent of cinnamon and starlight. Sorry, Pip said, not sounding sorry at all. I get excited. Zara told me all about you. You fixed her wing and gave her chicken and told her stories about Earth. I want to hear stories about Earth. Do humans really keep other animals as friends? Can I meet a dog? Zara says dogs are like tiny wolves but friendly. Pip, Thalarin said firmly, remember your manners. The little dragon immediately sat up straighter on Tommy's chest, folding his wings formally. Tommy Martinez of Earth, I am Pip, 4th Prince of Altair Prime, and I would be honored to serve as your bond companion, if you'll have me. Tommy looked into Pip's eyes, swirling violet and silver like his siblings, but bright with youth and uncontainable curiosity, and felt his heart melt. You want to stay here? On Earth with me? More than anything. I've been studying human culture since Zara's rescue beacon activated. Did you know humans have something called pizza? And movies? And Saturday morning cartoons? I want to experience all of it. Pip has always been our explorer, Thalarin explained with obvious affection. When he heard about the human who saved his sister, he immediately volunteered for the bond gift. Perhaps a bit too enthusiastically. He's wonderful, Nancy said, and Tommy realized his mother had that look she got when she found a new stray that needed adopting. But surely he'll miss his family. The bond between guardian and dragon companion is sacred, Kalen explained. It's not separation, it's expansion. Pip will grow and learn alongside Tommy, but he'll always be connected to our family. Plus, Pip added cheerfully, I can visit home anytime. Dragon ships can cross between dimensions. I could have dinner on Altair Prime and be back for Tommy's bedtime. General Patterson was furiously taking notes. The strategic implications of interdimensional travel will be discussed in formal negotiations, Thaloran said smoothly. Today is about family. Tommy gently lifted Pip off his chest and set the little dragon on the table next to his father. Pip, if you stay with me, what would that actually mean? Day to day, I mean? We'd be partners, Pip said excitedly. I'd help you with your dragon ambassador duties, and you'd teach me about being human. We'd explore Earth together and meet your friends and learn about your culture. And eat pizza, Tommy said solemnly. And eat pizza. Pip agreed with delight. He'd attend school with you, Agent Collins added. We're already working on integration protocols. Having a dragon companion will certainly make your education unique. What about normal kid stuff? Video games, sleepovers, riding bikes? Tommy, Zara said gently, dragons are remarkably adaptable. Pip could assume a form that appears more Earth-normal when necessary, though his true nature would always be evident to those who know what to look for. I can look like a really exotic pet, Pip demonstrated by shifting his coloration to more mundane browns and greens, though his wings still shimmered with impossible patterns. See, almost normal. Almost, Tommy laughed. Thaloran studied the interaction between boy and young dragon with ancient, knowing eyes. Tommy, the choice is yours. But I should tell you that Pip has been preparing for this moment since the day he hatched. In dragon culture, being chosen as a bond companion is the highest honor a young dragon can receive. Tommy looked around the room at the faces watching him. His parents, proud and accepting. The government officials seeing the historic significance. The dragons hopeful but patient. And Pip practically vibrating with excitement. Okay, he said finally. But I have conditions. Pip's face fell. Conditions? First, no fire in the house without permission. Second, you have to help me with homework. I figure having a genius alien dragon for a study buddy has to be worth something. And third, Tommy grinned, you have to promise to stay my friend, not just my companion. Deal? Pip launched himself at Tommy again, this time with careful control. Deal, best deal ever. This is going to be amazing. As the little dragon settled on Tommy's shoulder opposite Zara, Tommy felt a strange completeness, as if pieces of a puzzle he hadn't known were missing had finally clicked into place. So, he said, looking at the assembled dragons and government officials, what happens now? Now, Thaloran said with satisfaction. We begin the real work of bringing our peoples together. But first I believe someone mentioned something about pizza. Outside, the dragon fleet maintained its honor guard formation while inside the Martinez house. The future of human-dragon relations was being negotiated over breakfast and the promise of trying Earth's most beloved food. 6 months later, Tommy Martinez stood in his backyard, watching Pip attempt to teach a group of neighborhood kids how to play what the young dragon had dubbed aerial tag. The game involved Pip carrying volunteers into the air for brief flights while others tried to tag them with foam balls. It was chaotic, loud, and absolutely the most fun anyone on Maple Street had ever had. Higher, Pip. Higher! 8-year-old Sophie Chen called out as the dragon carefully lifted her into the air, his flight smooth and controlled despite his excitement. Any higher and your mom will never let you play again, Tommy called back, grinning as he watched his best friend show off for their human friends. The changes in his life had been overwhelming at first. The media attention, the constant government officials, the endless meetings about human-dragon relations, it had all felt impossible. But gradually, with help from his family, his new dragon siblings, and a team of advisors who actually listened to what a 12-year-old thought was important, they'd found a rhythm. School had been the biggest adjustment. Having a dragon companion meant Tommy's education now included courses in xenobiology, interdimensional physics, and galactic history, taught by the finest minds from multiple worlds. But he'd insisted on keeping normal classes too, art, English, and especially PE, where Pip had proven surprisingly terrible at basketball despite his ability to fly. Tommy, his mother called from the back door. Your 4 o'clock appointment is here. Tommy sighed. The appointment was with Dr. Sarah Chen, a xenopsychologist studying human-dragon bonding patterns. It was important work that would help future guardian-companion pairs, But Tommy sometimes missed when his biggest concern was whether he'd remembered to feed the neighbor's cat. "Coming, Mom." He whistled sharply and Pip immediately began landing the kids safely on the grass. "Aw, do we have to stop?" Marcus protested. He'd been skeptical of Tommy's weird lizard friend at first, but Pip's enthusiasm was infectious. "The doctor wants to run more tests," Tommy explained. "But Pip will be back tomorrow for more flying lessons." "Actually," Pip said, settling on Tommy's shoulder as the other kids headed home, "I was thinking we could work on some formation flying. Zara's been teaching me some advanced maneuvers. No loop-de-loops with passengers," Tommy said firmly. "I'm not explaining to Mrs. Peterson why her daughter came home dizzy." Through their bond, Tommy felt Pip's amusement. The connection between them had grown stronger over the months, allowing them to share emotions and even thoughts when they concentrated. It was like having a best friend who literally understood exactly how you felt. Dr. Chen was waiting in the living room with her usual array of monitoring equipment. She'd been documenting their bond from the beginning, trying to understand how a human and dragon could become so perfectly synchronized. "Hello, Tommy." "Hi, Pip." Dr. Chen smiled as they entered. "Ready for today's session? Do we have to do the empathy tests again?" Pip asked. "They make my head fuzzy. Just a few quick scans today. We're seeing some fascinating developments in your neural synchronization patterns." As they ran through the familiar tests, emotional response measurements, telepathic range calculations, and coordination challenges, Tommy found his mind wandering to the bigger picture. The Dragon Embassy was nearly complete, a beautiful crystal structure that had grown in the field behind their house over the past month. Representatives from dozens of worlds were arriving weekly for cultural exchanges. Earth's technology was advancing by leaps and bounds thanks to dragon knowledge sharing. But more importantly, the galaxy had begun to take notice of humanity's potential. Just last week, Prince Kalen had returned from a diplomatic mission to the Centauri Coalition with news that 3 other species wanted to establish formal relations with Earth. The Crystalline Collective is particularly interested in human artistic expression, Kalen had reported. They believe your species' emotional depth could revolutionize their understanding of beauty. And the Void Runners want to study human problem-solving techniques, Zara had added. Apparently, your ability to find solutions through intuition rather than pure logic is considered remarkable. Tommy still found it hard to believe that humanity was becoming known across the galaxy as the species that led with their hearts, but every day brought new evidence. The Dragon Cultural Exchange students who visited Earth were amazed by human music, art, and literature. They couldn't understand how beings with such short lifespans could create works of such emotional complexity. "All done," Dr. Chen announced, bringing Tommy back to the present. "Your synchronization levels are still increasing. At this rate, you and Pip will achieve perfect neural harmony within the year." "What does that mean exactly?" Tommy asked. "Complete emotional and telepathic unity. You will essentially share consciousness while maintaining your individual personalities. It's the deepest bond possible between 2 sentient beings." Pip's scales brightened with excitement. "We'll be like super best friends." "Something like that," Dr. Chen laughed. "Tommy, can I ask you something personal?" "Sure. Do you ever regret it?" "Saving Zara, I mean. Your life has changed so dramatically." Tommy considered the question seriously. His life was certainly more complicated now. There were responsibilities he'd never asked for, attention he didn't always want, and the constant awareness that his actions affected not just himself, but the relationship between entire civilizations. But then he looked at Pip, who was carefully examining Dr. Chen's equipment with scientific curiosity, and felt Zara's warm presence in the next room, where she was helping his mom plan the menu for tomorrow's diplomatic dinner. He thought about the wonder in his classmates' eyes when they met their first aliens, and the pride in his parents' faces when world leaders praised their son's wisdom. "No," he said finally, "I don't regret it. Everything that's happened, all the good stuff, it started because someone needed help and I helped them. If I could go back and do it again, I'd make the same choice. Even knowing what you know now about the consequences, especially knowing what I know now." Dr. Chen made a note in her file. "That's what makes humanity special, you know. Other species calculate outcomes, weigh benefits and risks. Humans just see someone in pain and act. It's not always the wisest approach, but it's consistently the most compassionate one." After Dr. Chen left, Tommy and Pip went up to his room, which had been expanded to accommodate a dragon-sized sleeping area and Pip's growing collection of Earth artifacts. The young dragon was particularly fond of snow globes and had acquired quite a collection from various diplomatic gifts. "Tommy," Pip said as he settled into his crystal nest, "do you think we'll have more adventures?" "I think we're still in the middle of our first adventure," Tommy replied, looking out the window at the dragon ships that had become a permanent part of Millbrook's skyline. "The biggest adventure in human history, probably." "Good," Pip said with satisfaction. "I like adventures, especially ones where we help people." "Yeah," Tommy agreed. "Me too." As the sun set over their small town that had become the center of galactic diplomacy, Tommy reflected on how much had changed since that rainy afternoon when he'd heard crying from a storm drain. He'd thought he was just saving an injured animal. Instead, he'd opened the door to the stars and proven that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness could reshape the universe. Outside, the dragons maintained their honor guard, protecting Earth and its inhabitants. And in his room, a 12-year-old boy and his dragon best friend planned their homework and dreamed about tomorrow's possibilities, secure in the knowledge that no matter what challenges came next, they'd face them together. The galaxy had learned what the people of Millbrook had always known. Tommy Martinez had a gift for bringing out the best in everyone he met. And now, thanks to one rescued dragon princess, the entire universe was a little bit kinder, a little bit braver, and a lot more hopeful about the future.